Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board to order. In attendance at the moment are Anna Wells, Stephen Whitley, and myself, Ken Brown. I believe the first thing we want to do is go to allow Jeff Donahue, who's remotely joining us, to participate.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
It's gonna be roll call.
Okay, roll call, Anna?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Ken, yes. Okay, so Jeff, you're on. Can you hear us now?
He was going to mute himself, but he was hearing us.
Okay, Jeff, you're on. You're legit. We'll start the meeting with points of pride. Neil, would you like to take it away?
Sure. I just want to note a couple of things. We're still implementing the new software, so thanks to Deb as she goes through and learns different things there. Kara is working very hard on the town report. I see lists of reports in there, so that is underway. And of course, it was another snowy weekend, so public safety, public works, fire, police were all out. It was nice to get a real snowstorm though, with no ice.
Actual snow.
Actual snow. It is.
Yeah. Just to underline the work of, DPW, fire, police. They have a hard job and they do a wonderful work. So thank you.
I'll certainly agree with that. A couple of things I wanted to raise. I'd just like to thank all of the candidates that signed up to run for office. We actually have 5 contested elections this year, which I don't remember ever having that many. And also, I'd like to unfortunately note the passing of Edith Houston, who was a real pillar of light for the town, as well as former police chief Jeff Jordan. Anything else?
He was also county sheriff.
You are great. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda of January 31, 2022.
So moved.
Second. Do we have any discussion? We'll do a roll call. Anna? Stephen?
Yes.
Jeff? Yeah. And Ken, yes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the public meeting minutes of January 18, 2022.
So moved.
Second, any discussion? Stephen?
Yes.
Anna? Jeff? Yeah. And Ken, yes. Next is approval of the.
May want to come back to those because I think they're still on the list.
Oh,
That makes sense.
All right. You can come back at the end of the meeting.
Okay, we'll do that, and we'll go ahead to Merrimack County Sheriff David Cross and.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for attending.
Well, thank you for having me. And I promise not to take much of your time. As Ken indicated, my name is Dave Croft. I'm the county sheriff. I've been so for the last year. It's been a great year. One of the things that I learned during the campaign and over the last year is how many folks really don't know what my office does. So I made an attempt to get out to all the select board and 2 city councils throughout the county to try to educate folks on what in fact we actually do. And quite honestly, not so much of my department, but the county is a good portion of the tax bill. So I think it's important that you kind of get an idea what you're getting for your dollar. And as I'm sure you all know, we were given a charge this year to come in with a 0% increase on the tax dollar. And I'm happy to say that the department heads worked really hard and we were successful in doing that. So as I'm sure you already know, your county tax bill will not be going up this year. So that's a plus. I've been in law enforcement for many years. I'm coming a little close to 40 now. I was the prior chief of the town of Boston for 25 years before getting done in 07 and becoming a deputy sheriff. And then last year I ran for office when the position came open because of a unfortunate situation that happened with the prior sheriff. I have some deep ties here to Hopkinton. You mentioned Chet Jordan. I remember when I was a young officer, Chet was one of the first chiefs that hired me to work here at the fair. And I've worked for every one of them right up until the most recent one, because the fair hasn't happened yet, and I've worked for every one of them right up and through. And while I'm on that topic, great choice. TJ is a wonderful man. He's done some really good things, and it's going to be really hard to replace Steve, because Steve and Dave, everybody that you've had here has been top notch. But I think you'll be very happy with TJ. A little bit about the sheriff's office. I kind of try to give an explanation that folks kind of know mostly about, and I reflect back on Robin Hood and the sheriff from Nottingham. And that's kind of where we started from, and that came from England, came over here, and it's really been in existence ever since. I'm a constitutionally elected sheriff. We have full state jurisdiction, so we can technically go up to Colebrook and run radar, or go down to Nashua and make arrests. And that's important because of the work that we do. My office is consistent of about 80 folks. That's both sworn and civilian staff. My first and one of my biggest units is our civil unit. We're responsible for going out and serving civil process. That may be a landlord-tenant rent, it may be a divorce decree, it may be some paperwork that the court's ordered somebody to pay or something of that nature. The civil office is one of our biggest, or is our biggest revenue portion of my budget. And recently, the legislature fortunately just allowed us to raise those rates because they were so low. We were actually losing money because they hadn't changed in like 10 or 15 years. And I'm assuming your wife's a senator?
Yes.
Yes, lovely lady, and very supportive of and I spent some time on the campaign trail with your wife as well. So please tell her I said hello. But anyways, we were very successful in getting those rates to go up and come up to normal daytimes. And we've been able to bring in some more revenue because of that. One of the things that I'm a firm believer of is that I want people to think of law enforcement as we're there to help. And what I saw when we were doing our civil paperwork, we do a lot of evictions. Our evictions are on Wednesdays. And one of the things that was troublesome to me is that we would go there, open the door, and pretty much throw these people on the street. And I wanted to put a stop to that because I didn't think that's what we should be doing. So what I do now is I have my staff research the individuals that we're putting onto the street, find out if they have any underlying problems, whether they have a substance use disorder, whether they have a mental illness, whether they have both, or whatever the problem may be. And I try to bring in resources actually to that eviction. So when that individual is put on the street, we can come to them and say, okay, we got any help here, we can do this, we can do that. Because ultimately, without us doing that, they're coming back here and they're gonna be a burden on your welfare department, they're gonna be a burden on your law enforcement department, and they're gonna be a burden on our hospitals because a lot of them don't have the greatest health. So I'm really passionate about that. I put together a pamphlet that we hand to these folks, and it's really worked out well, and it seems to be helping, I hope. One of my larger departments as well is our transport division. Back prior to the pandemic, we were doing about 720 transports a month, and all through the state, all through the United States, all we have prisons, as you know, up in Berlin. We could be called to go up there. We could go down to Manchester or Nashua. And just recently, I had to send 2 deputies to California, where they fly out there and bring back somebody who's wanted out in California. So we're a very busy department. And I'm hoping now that we see the floodgates slowly starting to open up, and we have so much backlog with the courts, I envision that this spring we're really going to be we're really going to be going strong. I have a warrants department. I have 2 deputies that are assigned to do nothing but warrants. At any given time, we have anywhere between 400 to 500 active warrants. These individuals are responsible for going out and finding these folks and bringing them back. It could be something as simple as a $50 fine. It could be something as major as a homicide or some major drug operation. I have a detective unit. My detective unit consists of 3 detectives. We're there to help our smaller agencies who can't handle the workload or don't have the expertise to do whatever particular crime that comes in. One of the things that I'm very proud of and happy for is recently I was able to get a federal grant to hire an individual to do nothing but ICAC. ICAC stands for Internet Crimes Against Children. I was amazed when I heard the numbers over the last year. Internet crimes against children in Merrimack County alone has gone up 300%. So I said, why is that? Well, when I got explained why, it made a lot of sense to me. So over the last year or so, we've asked people to stay home. So our perpetrators were staying home. We asked our children to stay home and homeschool. So we have our perpetrators actually, and it's a bad analogy, but I can't think of another one, in a candy store. So they had these kids right online. So this gentleman used to be the police chief in Mount Vernon, he lives in Henniker. He's been on the federal task force for quite some time. He came in with the boots hitting the ground running. And just in the short 6 months he's been there, we've done 15 search warrants just in Merrimack County alone. So hopefully we're going to be able to really put a big stop to that. But I tell all my chiefs that's a real specialty to understand that. Me personally, I was probably meant to come across this country in a covered wagon when it comes to technology. But when I talk to this gentleman and some of the things he said, I go, hey, slow down, you got to back up. For this little guy, can't really understand that. But that's taken off really well, so I'm very proud and happy with that. I have a communications division. We actually dispatch for Hopkinton. I dispatch for 17 different communities throughout Merrimack County. I have a 24/7 operation in there. It can be very challenging in today's times. The county's been very well with sign-on bonuses and things of that nature, but it's really kind of a thankless job, I should say, because it's nights, weekends, and holidays, and the money just isn't. When I drive by Dunkin' Donuts in Warner, they're averaging about $20 an hour to serve coffee, and I offer a communication specialist 19, and you got to work nights, weekends, and holidays. It's really a tough sell. But I got to give the county credit. They've really worked hard on trying to get incentives in there to try to bring that up. I'm responsible for court security. So I have 3 circuit courts in Merrimack County. One's located in Franklin, one's located in Hooksett, one's located in Concord, and then I have the Superior Court, which is located in Concord as well. Anything that happens in there security-wise is my responsibility. Anything from taking inmates in from transport, bringing them up to court, security of the jury, security of the judges. That's a rough oversight of what we do. I have some deputies that are assigned to special task force as well. I have a deputy that's assigned to the Attorney General's drug task force. His job is to go out and do surveillance and actually buy illicit drugs. And you can imagine that he stays very busy as well. I have another deputy that's assigned to Homeland Security. He's on the human trafficking division. It's really hard to sit here in Hopkinton, New Hampshire tonight and think that we have a human trafficking problem in Merrimack County. But I'm here to tell you we do. It's sad, it's scary, but it's there. But I'm really happy that I can supply somebody in to try to help with that problem. Visions that I have, I want to try to start a crisis intervention team. Far too often I went to a tragedy. We oversee, I'll say SWAT, if people understand what that means, but we call it SOU, Special Operations Unit. We, unfortunately, a few months ago, the team had to take a life in Pittsfield. And I went over there shortly after that happened, and all the operatives were in separate rooms waiting to be debriefed by the state police and the attorney generals. And nobody at that time knew who pulled the trigger that sent the deadly blow. And I could see in their face the trauma and the fear. Fortunately, the team has never done this before. I could see that the need for that time to have a specialist there that these folks could talk to and work their problems out would have been really, really beneficial. Not to mention with all the trauma that our firefighters and our police officers see on a daily basis. So this individual would be there to help these folks work through these problems, but it'll also be something that we can bring to things like our evictions. I had a deputy the other day that was up in Franklin, and the gentleman was trying to take his life by jumping off a bridge. I think perfect time for this individual to interact with that. Manchester has a wonderful program. I'm all about plagiarism. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If they've already done the work for me, I'm happy to take it. So hopefully there's a lot of money out there. So hopefully I'm going to get that up and running here in the next few months. My motto when I took this over is I believe county government is here for you. It's my job to serve you any way I can. I have people out at night now to assist with towns that need help. The other, as you probably know, there was a need when your new chief was out for a while. There was a need for coverage, and TJ called me and said, "Can you help me?" And I was more than willing to do that. And I sent deputies over here to cover the town for that short period of time that the chief and some of the folks were out. That's my model. That's where I think we need to be. We're here for you. New England's really unique, where the sheriff's office doesn't do anything close to what they do in the larger parts of the country. I mean, we've all been to Florida and seen sheriffs run everything. So I'm about giving back to the taxpayers. I'm about helping in any way I can. That's pretty much the Reader's Digest version. I really appreciate the time you folks have given me. I just wanted to educate you on what we do, let you know that we're there for you. Anything I can do for you in my office, Ken, we're a call away. Your chief is great, your department is great, and he knows that as well. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
No, thank you for that explainer. It was really helpful. As you said, most people don't know what your focus is about, so that's really, really helpful. And also just, yes, crisis intervention, so vital, and I totally support it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was going to ask Sheriff about the taking, all the resources to the evictions. I think that's a great idea to try to help people. And has the response been, have they utilized the service?
As I'm sure you could probably understand, it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
A lot of these folks really have a severe mental illness. We've actually had to take folks from eviction and actually admit them to the state hospital because of the trauma. But I would say yes, it has. And we're seeing a lot more dual diagnosis now, where somebody's struggling with mental illness and they're struggling with substance use disorder.
Yeah.
So it's really been helpful to have that resource there and get them into Riverbend or get them into a treatment center right off. And they actually, when they find out reality is really kicked in and they're on the street, they're more inclined to say, okay, maybe we can take the help now. Where in the past, when they have a place to live, they may be reluctant to do so. So I would, to answer your question, yes, I believe it.
Other than that situation, I mean, it sounds like you're looking for these opportunities to address people that are have mental health issues or underlying, substance abuse disorders. That's what's prompting them to, run afoul of the law. And I guess I would encourage you to keep looking for those opportunities because I think it's well worth your time and effort. And so I hope that there's other things that come to mind.
Thank you. I hope so as well. Yeah. Anything else?
I'd also like to thank you and just to understand the scope of what the department does. It's a lot broader than I had thought. I was curious, you did mention where you had helped out our department during some, when the chief was unavailable. So where we're still down a number of positions, to what extent could your department help out?
So and that's a great question, and you can probably imagine I get that almost on a daily basis when I go and select boards. The situation is not unique to Hopkinton. It's not unique to anybody in law enforcement. Right now, the state police are down 60 troopers. As of a month ago, I could tell you that I was up to full speed, but over the last month, I've lost 3 deputies to go to other communities. So I will do anything I can to help you, but to guarantee that I'll always be here, I can't do that. I try to extend my patrols. I try to, what we do at night. So I have a deputy out till 10 every night. I actually have 2 deputies out till 10 every night. And I try to divide the county by the river, by Merrimack River. So we have the west and the east, and they'll come and help any way they can. For instance, there's an arrest here, and the individual needs to be transported to Boston. And, if you only have 1 officer on, that could be 3 or 4 hours by the time they get them to Boston, get them processed, and get them back here. So I'm a phone call away to do that transport. If you have a bad motor vehicle accident or a fire and you need assistance with that, we'll come when we can. occasionally, when you need help with patrol, and if I have the personnel to do that, I'm more than willing to help out. But I'm on that roller coaster ride just like everybody else is in this, and it's not unique to law enforcement. I mean, if you can't find a job today, I don't really know when you ever will, but society is asking law enforcement to change, and I think that change is very positive. But a lot of the changes too are being met with kind of resistance with new people coming onto the job. You know, sometimes we've changed the retirement system. We've increased the amount of hours that these folks need to maintain their certification, which I was an advocate for right from the get-go. I mean, where can you take somebody's freedom, or God forbid, take somebody's life, and you only need 8 hours of continued day? This is ridiculous. And until just this last year, now we're at 24, and then next year we're going to 40, and I hope it continues to increase. But it also brings a burden on smaller communities, because if you got to find 80 hours of training for an officer, then he or she is gone, who's going to cover? So it's a roller coaster. But I'm here for you when I can, and hopefully I'll be back up to full staff sometime soon, and I might be even here for you more.
Hopefully we'll be able to.
Hopefully you will. Yeah.
Just a question, because it surprised me. You mentioned that you work with the Hooksett Court.
Hooksett Circuit Court is I have security there.
Isn't Hooksett in Hillsborough County?
No, Merrimack.
No, okay,
Yeah, we go New London, Hooksett, Pittsfield, Hill.
okay, I learned something else.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Jeff, did you have any questions?
I'm sorry, I was late. Totally caught up from everyone else. and what you said.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, everybody. Take care. Thank you.
Are they,
There.
I'm gonna let her.
sorry, I was late. Thanks for- You want me to take over now? You want me to-
No,
Okay.
go for it. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
That's right, that's right. That's a joke, by the way. So, next up, I think, our own business, starting town meeting work.
Here it is. You also have, it's in your packet. The zoning amendments are in there. They've been through the planning board and approved to go forward. And the question is, do you want to vote on these tonight? Technically, probably the only change left is if a petition warrant article comes in tomorrow. I'm not aware of any. That doesn't mean that there isn't one out there.
So I would love to vote tonight, because
I do have a question. Neil, what if the budget committee deliberations in 9 days, they vote for different budget?
Then it would have to get changed and you'd have to re-vote on it. And you could still change it up until final.
Are you wanting to wait?
No, I just wanted to get an understanding that I'm not at this point, I'm not anticipating any changes from the budget committee, but who knows what will happen. You know, I'm fine with voting tonight.
So I guess your first article is Article 3, Keno. Generally, somebody makes a motion to either recommend or not recommend.
me a minute. What was that?
Can we vote 1 through 11 default, since I'm especially going to be 5 all
And we have to take them one at a time, or can we do,
I- Whichever you prefer. We can enter the total.
I thought that the keynote, did I miss something? I thought that it was going to be on. That it wasn't. gonna
It's
be
on the ballot. So maybe a recommendation doesn't have to go on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can recommend any article we want.
But won't the, Norm, do you have?
Yeah, I thought you were supposed to have a public hearing for that. You listen to the public and then you vote on it, correct?
On the keynote?
There is a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight.
I think,
The option. Right. I thought that we went-
It is on the ballot.
we, sorry, go ahead.
No, you.
I was gonna say, if we have, Norm makes a good point, and with the public hearing coming up, I would suggest we wait until after the public hearing to recommend this one at least.
I agree, but I
Makes
guess I'm
sense.
confused as to why, how it's on the ballot on Tuesday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then,
So are the zoning
oh.
too. Everything's in the warrant.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
So if we wait till after the public hearing to vote to recommend it or not, that recommendation can still be shown on the ballot?
Probably not. Because that has to go, because that's earlier than the warrant. It would show in the warrant, the final warrant.
But you were saying you don't have to put.
I don't think you do on that one.
It's still weird. to given-
It's not a petition.
Yeah.
You would have to if it were a petition.
Thanks for raising the point about the public hearing. I agree. I would rather not recommend, you don't have to, one way or the other.
Delete that. That's easy.
If others are okay with that.
Yeah, I think if you're having a public hearing, there's a reason to have the public hearing.
Yeah. I'm okay having it, not having no recommendation, but I also, and this won't come to me with, or anymore, but, I think unless you hear an overwhelming, you know, outcry in one direction or another, yeah, at a public hearing, I think. Maybe, yeah, but I don't know that.
So timing wise. Public hearing,
2 weeks from tonight.
okay. And so. Sorry, I missed this. Is it possible if we do like, such like overwhelming public comment one way or the other, we then add in?
On the warrant, it will be too late for the ballot.
Okay. Okay, well, I would prefer not. Having it on the ballot. But. Only other warrant. Or on this, yeah.
And I feel like I think we should wait for the public hearing to do anything on this. And if that means it doesn't show up on the ballot, then it doesn't show up on the ballot.
Right. Okay.
Right. And Article 4, now this is the one I've written it a couple different ways. In conversation with DRA, they said not to put the gross budget amount in, that they had talked to their counsel about this, to go back to this way. You can still use the ARPA funds, because some of the questions I had asked were some of the questions they had asked. If ARPA funds are in there and there's a no vote, does no mean no, you can't spend the ARPA funds. So they said, do it this way.
So what we need a motion to approve.
To recommend if,
Almost recommend that.
Okay. All those in favor?
All right, Jeff, start with you.
Houston Barnes. Are you supportive of Article
If
4?
that's me, I mean,
Okay, good. All right, yeah, yes, I'm a yes.
Yes.
And Stephen,
Yes.
thank you. Operating budget.
One, can verify that's the right number?
Yeah, this is the number that I'll be bringing to the budget committee's deliberative session in 9 days.
Budget hearing. We don't have a deliberative session.
Technicalities are important. So I'll certainly move this.
Second.
Steph, we're voting on operating budget.
I mean,
All right, Hannah.
Yes.
I mean, yes.
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 Thank you.
On just for everybody's information on the remainder of the dollar articles, budget committee did not vote on those. They won't vote until after the next meeting. And that was the way Bill explained it, that was the focus on do it, not.
The budget committee number goes on the warrant for the operating budget. So they voted to take this to public hearing. And then they're going to vote on recommendations for the rest after the public hearing.
So if you can, I would motion we recommend Article 6, 7, and 8.
I'll second.
Jeff, we're doing 6, 7, and 8, which is capital reserve, expendable trust fund, and increase in payroll liability trust fund.
I mean,
All right, Anna.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. All right, Article 9. Designating lots of transport. We have a, feel like we had a follow-up question on this last time, or no?
I don't think so.
I'll call that.
All right,
So this is the Chesley land, the lot around Kimball Pond, Kimball Lake, and then the Horn lot, which is a landlocked piece at the back of Bohannon's Field at the end of Burge Road.
this essentially is a lot of selective.
It puts the Conservation Forestry Committee in charge of the land, and then the funds from the land or the logging goes into a separate forestry fund, not just the conservation fund.
I move that the board recommend Article 9.
Second.
All right, Jeff, town forest.
I mean, yes.
All right, Anna?
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Okay, accept the authorization sell donated lot proceeds going to conservation fund.
The board recommends
We're gonna change that to net proceeds.
That's what it says.
No, yeah, the wording of the article.
It does say net proceeds, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You did.
Not in the title.
No, yeah.
We can fix that. It may not fit in the line.
All right, Anna, I'll make it. I'll second.
Hold up, Jeff.
All right, so I have two yes, Anna,
Yes.
I'm yes,
Yes.
and yes, Stephen.
Yes.
All right, see my dad.
I'll move it.
Second.
All right. Jeff, or See my bag. Yeah. And yeah, then even.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so Article 12 is a petition to make all voting on paper ballots and all ballots must be counted by hand. I do not recommend this.
I'll
Is there any-
second your not recommend.
We have our town clerk here in the audience, and I'm just curious if, Carol, you have any thoughts on?
You're gone.
But
But I think, I think to be fair, I don't know the true genesis of this. I think they're afraid that the ballot counting machines are not accurate.
And I understand that.
Yeah, and do you have the same concerns about accuracy?
No,
Okay,
I do not.
okay.
No.
Okay,
That's not.
I would move that we not recommend Article 12, so a yes vote means that we are not recommending the article.
I think we already have 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Oh, we did?
Could I?
I withdraw that motion.
I move,
But the clarification is good.
I can put that line twice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. But, so, yes, I guess what means we're not recommending. That you agree with the motion, to not recommend. I need it and then you second it. Okay. All right, Jeff. All right, great. Anna, yes. I mean, yes. You.
Yes.
All right. Great.
That is it.
That's it. Thank you. Neil. Okay. What's up in 2021 year-to-date financial?
Very minor changes since the last 2 weeks ago when you met. This is pretty much final, except it's unaudited. I would note that this is the new format out of the new system. And actually even the summary page, we print directly, which saves time and lessens the chance of mistakes when you're printing a report and then putting totals into a summary sheet. So we can create pretty much any reports we want. So this will be the new format, but we could change these. I know some of the revenue's a little different because we divided them up before, and I think we can create a report that will do that, that shows like transfer station revenue and ambulance instead of putting it all in one category. So we will get that report made so that prints, so you have that information too.
I want to raise one concern about presentation of the overall tax increase of the slightly over 8%. The revenues that we've gotten for 2021 were basically 183,000 better than budgeted, and expenses at this point were about 68,000 better than projected. And when we originally decided how much of the fund balance to use, we were thinking the revenues would only exceed budget by something in the range of 100,000. So we're about 150,000 better than where we were at that point in time. And if we were to take another 60,000 out of the projected fund balance, then the tax increase would be down to the high sixes as opposed to low eights. Now, agree with Neil that there are still some numbers that are up in the air. But I feel that, presentation purposes, that would be more sellable to the voters than the 8% some real voters. Certainly give Neil the opportunity to explain why he thinks they need to progress.
Yeah, I think for one thing, it's unaudited, and often as things are adjusted, a portion of that 68,000 remaining in expenses, I think could go, it might go higher too. I just think estimating this more conservatively is better, even as it's proposed now. It really only leaves a slight cushion of 77,000 on an $8 million budget as far as next year. So that would pretty much wipe that out totally. I get for presentation purposes, it makes it look better. I don't think it changes reality. I think if the numbers are better than we expect, when the tax rate is set in September, we would have the audit and be through that. That could certainly go up. I'd rather tell people I never want to come in with a higher tax rate than people have been told in March. So.
Which is very fair also. But I do know what the rest of the committee felt. I just thought I should point it out.
I think I'm inclined to leave it in our back pocket, and because I would like to build up a little more than we have our fund balance going into the next few fiscal years. But that's.
Yeah, I think I agree with Neil on this one. Sorry, I
No,
appreciate you raising it, but
that's fine. Okay.
thank you. Anything else on the financial? Okay. That brings us to the transfer station septic lagoon septic.
Sure, you received in your packet the letter that went to DES on either Thursday or Friday, responding. Basically, as of today, the lagoons are closed, and really asking for an extension from today until February 18th to bring them the plan. The third item in there was being closer than 500 feet to an abutting property, but we own the abutting property, so that really isn't an issue. I did meet with and update the refuge disposal committee, and all 6 members, 3 from Hopkinton and 3 from Webster, were there. And this stuff has been sent to Dana Hadley, who's the town administrator in Webster, and he was on today, so he heard the update as well as has the information. So the next step is for DES to approve that and for Novus to create sort of the next plan. It's very likely, so basically what would happen is being recommended is the lagoon's closed, but there are piles of old sludge. It's not really sludge anymore. That would be tested. We are pretty sure that Grant will cover all the testing, or at least the PFAS testing for that. And when those test results come back, it will be able to be decided what the best course of action is to make sure that the site is safe and for best storage. It may be removing that and taking it to a specific landfill that collects that. They also said that if they found a lot of PFAS, they may not recommend moving it, and we may be figuring out how to contain it there. So that's kind of where we are at with that.
Any, at your meeting today with the social committee, anything that they, anything rise to the top of them and they share that?
A lot of their discussion was, okay, what's their role in all of this? So my suggestion to them was, and I said we would CC them on everything, is that they would really serve to make recommendations to the joint boards. And as this process continues. And there's a member right there.
I was gonna say, maybe we have one online. No, I was trying to time it. You did it very well.
Oh, the dog just raised the hand. Just,
Yeah, do you have anything, I mean, Neil went through the letter, said that he met with you all today, and basically the question from you all is what's your role in this, and it's just, stay informed and.
Yeah, no, it was very helpful to have you walk us through. He's a really good guy, but you guys didn't know anything about it. And, you know, I think in a situation like this, there's a tendency to play the blame game, like, they didn't do their job, how did this happen? And it just, there's no sense in doing that. And one of the things that we did learn is that every 5 years, we have to renew our permit for those buildings. Means that EPS has to come down and inspect it for 5 years. And every 5 years, they said, okay, this, yep, good, well set. So. Yeah, and I don't know what changed. But we seem to have been in compliance, and somebody was taking a close look over it. But we did agree as a committee that we're going to meet on a monthly basis, which we have not been.
Can you have whoever that is, take most of the microphone?
Sorry, that's Bonnie Christie's here. And she was just making a few comments. One was, DES reviews this every 5 years and we've always passed. And so something changed this time around where either they were looking closer or we did something differently, but she was making a general comment about not playing the blame game on this and trying to figure out like why things change. Is that fair? Yeah.
and actually the permit gets renewed every 5 years, but they inspect yearly and have and review all the septic receipts of where it's coming from. And so I don't think the rules changed as much as sort of the enforcement. And I think this had been done since it opened in the 80s, and this was just the practice, and it just went on. That's true.
I did have one final comment, and I can share this with you.
Fine, do you want to put that there?
Although it's because if you talk for the phone, right?
I
Yeah.
Oh, right.
He's
Right.
on mute, but
But that's not connected to the phone. It's connected to Zoom. Just.
My dog is loving this. I just had a thought, Novus engineering, somewhere between $35,000 and $37,000 a year to do the monitoring of and keep an eye on things down there. And I have no idea what's in their contract, what their duties are. But it just occurred to me that we might want to have an objective third party as the consultant for the look at the problem and suggest a cleanup solution. And Neil indicated that that might be somebody from this. And he said, I don't know, because I don't know what's in the contract. I don't know if there's any conflict of interest there, but it was just.
Thanks, Mom.
Comments on the- How do we notify people that they no longer dispose?
DS did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only. Oh, it's like the. septic.
This is just the septic haulers, and they have a list of all the ones. And DS said, when I talked to them, they said, oh, we take care of all that.
All right, that brings us to Barn, we have to register for license. So do we, what is our role in that? Do we have to?
Just approve it moving forward.
Approve the application to the registry.
Right.
I have to tell you that I don't support this,
Tell us why.
because I think it's a problem for us, because we use federal funds to stabilize the farm. So we're going to be subject to federal regulations. I know that one New Hampshire Department of Historic Resources and Historic Resource that still federal money, we're still going to be subject to federal funds. I mean, the division's website says if we wanted to move that barn across the street, they have to approve it. So I've heard from several farm committee folks that say, there's no impact, we can do whatever we want. That's not the case. They're restricted by the division and we're restricted by the use of federal funds.
Okay. Please do mind coming closer to Jeffrey. Thank you. As we have Lee here.
I came just to answer any questions that might have come up, and Ben Wilson from the Department of Historical Resources reached out to me when I mentioned to the committee that this is going to be on the agenda. And it is the state registry, and it places no restrictions. This is in quotes. It places no restrictions on what can be done. It's merely honorary recognition of its historical significance and allows the town to apply for the grant funding. So this is only the step we need to take prior to asking for LCHIP funding, and LCHIP funding is state funding.
So can I just, Louise, can I ask, just to clarify, the application is to be on the state's register, not the federal one?
Right.
Okay, and Jeff, because I looked at the same website that you mentioned, and I saw the same language. And it sounds like this is a different sort of arrangement that's being proposed, if I understand it correctly.
I would certainly want to have confirmation from the director invited that he's aware that we're using federal funds to stabilize the farm, and that we won't be subject to any regulations on the feds or the state. Because the fed use federal money, you are on hook for your life, ever with that bond.
Yeah.
So this is the statute, 227 C33. And 3 is listing a property in the state register does not prohibit any actions that may otherwise be taken by the property owner with respect to the listed property.
It's surprisingly clear for So wait, Jeff, I'm seeing, where did you?
And that's what the property owner is using our money.
Yeah.
But it's got the national register.
That we need to, in order to watch out the money.
Okay.
And those regulations are if the property owner is using their own money to use federal money, the subject to a different set of regulations.
I'm not aware that we're applying for federal funds.
The money
We're
that,
using.
Oh, I see.
ARPA money that we received.
I understand.
yeah,
$600,000.
But can you say more, Jeff, about why? How does that restrict what happens to the property using ARPA money to stabilize it?
Because if you use federal money for a historic structure, then you have to follow the National Park Service's rules. You can never take it that way, you can take it down under extreme circumstances, but if there's federal money in it, they don't want you to take it down there. You can't move it, you can't, in many cases, change the windows or the doors or the roof, which we're talking about doing. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that we're using federal money and we're subject to regulations.
but what does that have to do with being on the New Hampshire register? It seems like that's a separate, like it's an issue unto itself because we're using federal money. Because we're talking about New Hampshire's register. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, but if you're using federal money, you're going to be subject to the rules, whether you're on a register or not.
Right, okay. So that's its own,
Right,
it's a federal
separate issue.
Yeah, I don't think the New Hampshire registry further ensnares us in the federal regulation. I think that's its own issue.
The use of federal money is made up of it.
Correct, and it's that, but we're doing that like separate and apart from the historic registry.
But we're not on any registry. If we go on the registry approved by the state historic preservation office, we're essentially on the hook for federal regulations. Right now, we're not.
So the,
We're not.
the state and the federal registers are independent of each other. There's two different, the historic register.
In writing from the director who's probably in the back, I'm sure you that hard.
You would want it in writing that us joining the New Hampshire State Register of Historic Places will not subject us to federal
And
restrictions,
stabilize the bond using federal funds.
will not subject us to restrictions?
I don't.
Louise, is there a time limitation for this state application?
No, the preliminary review is every 2 weeks, and then I believe the board meets quarterly, as I was told.
Okay,
So no, and I can, talk to, or actually, I guess Wilson, talk to Ben Wilson, and then he can report back to you what Ben said.
because I mean,
had my email.
No, it's okay. I mean, I want the town to be able to tap into LCHIP funds without fear of limitations being imposed on us. And so I'm wondering if we take a little time and do some digging into the issue that Jeff is concerned about. And hopefully we can proceed with the state registry application and feel comfortable that we're not, walking backwards or going to be blindsided by federal regulations, which we, didn't know we were going to be subject to because of the listing.
I just don't understand how a state listing would somehow expand federal involvement in this.
And I don't see how that works either, but I think it's a significant enough sort of question that I would hate for us to realize, oh gosh, and if there's no harm in delaying it while we get that answer.
Yeah.
why not, just feel more comfortable before we make that decision?
I think what Stephen says makes sense. I'm curious, Jeff, do you have any concerns that even if we don't do this, that the federal government will put some restrictions on because they're using ARPA money?
I do not have that concern. I'm concerned about any registry that we go through.
Okay, all right.
That might be a good NHMA.
That might be, because they may be getting
Yeah.
similar asks.
Was there anything else on the application itself that you may have? Or you want me to change?
Very, very cool. Really. Yeah.
Is the date survey January 21?
That is, when you look at the instruction book, I did very often. It is the date that you took the picture.
I see, okay.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
The inventory form for 46, statement of integrity, says need help answering.
Yep.
What,
So, what happens is the initial time I submit this, there is a lady, Megan, I don't remember her last name. I spoke with her on the phone and she said, quite often you will submit it. She goes through it with IT, so she will reach out to us and reword things as necessary if you don't know how to answer a question, because that was the question I asked her. I have no clue, guys. And she says, no problem. She goes, that happens often and we will help you with that. So then we will do the editing and then she'll look it over again and then it goes to, for the review.
okay.
So it's good to know there's someone that understands all this that can help me with that.
Yeah, because I don't know what they mean by
Yeah.
integrity.
No.
Okay,
No. You can interpret it anyway.
yeah, right.
So, who's gonna follow up on this?
I'll follow up with NHMA and wherever else.
All right, do we, under new business, do you have a sense of how long emergency management director will be?
Hopefully not long at all.
Okay. Because of the, 6:30.
Right.
Thank you, Louise.
I have one question before I head out though. We have a bond hearing. Oh,
2 weeks from today.
so what is it that you need from the?
Okay, we can be here to answer questions.
Right, do you want the PowerPoint that was used for the budget? Or not? I have it available. Well, I guess, no, you.
Oh, you have it, right?
I do have that. And we'll have the costs and estimated costs and all of that.
I can just see it again.
I think that would be great.
And you will let me know, what Jen says.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, you can the emergency management director.
Sure. Chief Pecora was the emergency management director and he is no longer. So in talking, it's often in the fire department. So I'm actually recommending that Chief Yale be appointed the emergency management director. And he and I, in talking and with what other towns do, they often make the town administrator the deputy. So our recommendation is that I be the deputy. I kind of do the paperwork and he does the on the ground. We have not had a deputy. Although I've been on all those calls and especially as health officer through the pandemic. And I think it's probably helpful to remain on those. If do motions and there are appointment papers.
I move that fire chief Jesse Dell, the emergency management director, and Gail Cass, administrator, and deputy. I'm second. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, yes.
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 All right, thank you. Thanks, Neil. Okay, do you have Mr. Ruffey?
Yep. This week I took part in the NHMA infrastructure call with Senator Shaheen. That was helpful. As all the infrastructure money is coming. I also took part in an ARPA call, which took place on Thursday, which turned out to be shorter than we expected because basically what they've said now is anyone 10 million or under use lost revenue, and it's just simple. And so the first 5, maybe 10 minutes of that call was that, and then they said, so you can get off if you're not over 10 million. And I wish I could have stayed, but I didn't. So as noted, public hearings on both Keno and the bond issue are scheduled for February 14th, Valentine's Day, the next meeting. The budget hearing is scheduled for next Wednesday, February 9th. That'll take place here, and we'll have Zoom option for people, and hopefully lots of people will do that. Right. And that's at 6. All the hearings are actually at 6.
Okay.
And because when we had the 3 hearings that night, the meeting I wasn't at, you got backed up. Both the Keno hearing and the budget hearing are scheduled for 6 o'clock, but they won't happen at the same time though. You can take whichever one first, so.
And this really questions. I mean, it's, we have to do them, but there's no action.
No, it's kind of like SB2 last year. It's for people to gain information prior to voting.
Although if we want to recommend the Keno article
Right.
for the warrant, then we should do it after the public hearing.
For the bond presentation. Should I be planning to, in effect, do a presentation in the budget committee?
We can put a couple slides together just with the amounts, and that our turnout for those has been non-existent for the most part. And we'll,
Yeah, I can, because I'll be speaking to them.
And then,
they are going to they have invited the person from the Gaming Commission at the state to answer questions if there are any.
all right. Is that it for?
That's it, yes.
Anyone have public comment?
I had invited Thomas to join us. He will be probably joining us permanently.
Yeah.
For a little
Very
while,
exciting.
but he was having prior commitment to, he couldn't come in person.
Yeah. He's gonna have the best commute.
That's right.
Anyone have one thing or the other?
Is it public comment here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Only for hours, no, I got it. I wanted to say thank you to Ken and the other did a great job with the presentation. He asked some really hard questions. He really does. But the presentation was great. It really was great to follow and understand format and everything. So I want to say to your leadership. And the attendance was really great. Thank you for posting the strategic plan, the district on the website.
Actually, I didn't do that.
Well,
It went out to in-person meal.
I did that.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. It was very overwhelming response. To see that, so thank you very much for that. And then I guess the last most important thing for me is the thank you. You know, this is your last meeting, and someone from the community who has seen many journeys and how you deliberated and come up with conclusions and stuff in the town. Thank you. I've learned a lot from you, and like this town should be very much appreciated for your service because I wanted to come and recognize you. It's really important to realize great opportunity. Will be continuing. It doesn't stop here because there's so much this community. I just really want to extend the huge thing. So thank you. I apologize.
That was well said.
It is Anna's, if I can move into other now, Anna's last meeting. Extremely sad. She is going to be starting as.
She's not going far.
You can do it. Director of Economic Development. Sure. In any event, she is going to be overseeing economic development. She, as a town employee, we felt was probably most appropriate now. Word. But yeah, you have just been such an amazing board member, and you don't just do stuff here, but you know, on the planning board, and select board rep, economic development, and just like a lot of people go to you. I know, but thank you. You're really nice on this board.
So I will miss doing this, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be here with all of you, even you, Jack.
Thank you, Anna.
I've really enjoyed my time, and this has been, I've said this to many, many people, this has been the fastest, most thorough education about this town one could ever hope for. So I fully endorse anyone who wants to be elected to the board to just learn and, you know, hopefully contribute in positive ways. So thank you all for being supportive and for allowing me to go on this journey. And I feel like now this has fulfilled a dream, and where I'm going is fulfilling another dream. So I'm not going to.
Stop playing.
Yep, please stop. I'm just feeling very, very grateful for all these opportunities.
I'd also want to thank you, Andy. You've added a lot to the board.
Same, and I'm very happy about where you're transitioning to, and I look forward to working with you in that role. And just we're very lucky that you're here to do that as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That comment, Anna, sounded like the town's new sport club and Hopkinton, the town of dreams.
Be whatever you want.
Thank you. Thank you.
And go easy on me, beginning. I mean, I'm
No.
building the
No
plan
promise.
that's why there's no blueprint for this, so.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled. Give it a shot.
Okay. And thank you for signing up, by the way.
Oh,
That's right. Oh, yeah.
That reminds me, unfortunately, with Anna stepping off, we have 4 people.
Yeah.
A quorum is here,
Yeah.
and written person is starting.
Correct.
So I would like us to think about, for our meeting in 2 weeks, of having Tom sworn in until town meeting.
As an alternate.
As a select board member.
Because we can choose.
Oh, right.
Because we can choose someone.
This is
I like that. Yeah. That seems reasonable if he's willing.
Yeah, I have not talked to Tom about if he is willing, but I could twist his arm, I think.
That would,
That's how I started, actually.
That is true.
And I was appointed.
oh.
That's right.
That is true.
Really, I forgot.
Well, and partly because town meeting was so far. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That would be, I think that's, I was actually fretting a little bit since I had to be late tonight.
Tom.
So if everyone's okay with that, and Thomas is willing, I think that would be great.
He hasn't disappeared yet.
He hasn't raised his hand either.
No, he doesn't have to answer now.
Yeah, but thank you for thinking of that.
And sort of, I guess, for Anna particularly, again, just if you're interested, this Wednesday morning, Aaron Robinson, Director of Planning, will be coming to Rotary.
Oh, great, great.
Talk about planning and zoning in town. And anybody who's interested, is welcome to either meet at the Slusher Center at 7:15 a.m. or go to the Rotary website and there's a Zoom link there to Zoom
Do you know, any, there's what's word planning board? Great.
Well, we meet monthly, so it'll be this, what is the second Tuesday? Month, so it'll be the
15th, probably the day after the next meeting.
fifth. I think they'll be, I mean, if you don't settle on someone, it'll be okay, because the warrant articles have been finalized and all of that happened. So if you want to sort of wait till see what the new makeup of the board is, they'll probably be okay.
Yeah, okay. If you hear any concerns from the planning board, we'll talk about.
Having someone attend and
All right, so we have two non-public and then we are going to adjourn after that. So, thanks for joining us, Norm.
Thank you.
So,
actually, I think there'll be 3 now.
okay.
What's the third one also?
B
Okay.
is the first and then 2 A's.
Oh,
Yeah.
Um,
Which is a pretty good report card.
we go into non-public under our A3, two are in A and one in B. Okay, Jeff, are you able to stay with us?
I should be here for the next 20 minutes.
Okay, so, are you into going into non-public?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, yes, and yes. And Stephen?
yes.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight.